All right, folks. Happy Thursday. It is 3 o'clock on the dot, and happy to be here on this Thursday. Now, there's a lot to get to, so we're going to kind of skip the small talk a little bit and kind of get right into it. So here's what we're looking at for today. So we are going to continue to do a little bit of audience interaction to start this off, so I'm excited about that. We're going to continue to start off with our question of the day, and here's what we're going to be doing with that. So, question of the day today, I'm excited about that. We are going to, oops. There we go, much better. Sorry if there was a little bit of reverb there, trying to figure out a couple things. But again, we're going to kind of jump right into it because, of course, we have a lot going on outside right now, and we have a lot to go on with the tropics. So right now, we are going to start off with our question of the day. Let's take a look. Here's what it is, and there's a reason behind this, and I kind of blame my mom for this one. What is your go-to coffee, tea, if you're headed to Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks? What's your go-to order with that? I would love to know for sure. So write it in the comments. We'll show your comments up on the screen a little bit later on in the show, but definitely write in. And yeah, what is your go-to coffee and tea order? And again, I kind of have my mom to kind of blame for this question on this one because Dunkin' Donuts discontinued a couple of their famous donuts, and one of them was personally my mom's favorite and one of my favorites as well. It's the butternut donut. So it's the plain donut with the nuts on the outside. So would love to know. Write in. We are live on Fox Local. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Love for you to get in on the fun. Also, something else that I would love everyone to do if they do have a second, our weather spotters are fantastic, and especially Joe Mathis writes in every single day from Claremont. And this is a beautiful photo that we have right here. And there's a reason for this. We're starting to see those storms really pick up out there this afternoon. Rising clouds going to be continuing to pick up. And we can see those rising clouds out there, but probably within the last half hour out there in Claremont. So if you do have any photos, definitely write them in. We would love to see them. Send us your photos. Here's that email that you can send them to us, and we'll definitely be asking for your photos a couple times during the stream. So definitely, if you do have any cool weather photos, send them to us. Try to make them timely, though. Most likely, we'll probably try to show them within the past 24 hours if they were taken. So definitely, if you do have any cool weather photos, Fox 35 Storm Team at fox.com. Definitely send us your photos if you have a second. All right, quick check. We're going to be taking a look at our radar right now because things are starting to pick up out there. We kind of have a couple things at play. So what we're going to continue to monitor, at least through the rest of the evening. Yesterday, we kind of lucked out a little bit. We didn't get too much of that rain. We're going to see it back in action again, taking a look this afternoon. So we have one sea breeze right here. We have another sea breeze kind of coming in along the east coast and another little boundary over here. So we're going to be watching this pretty closely because where all these storms combine, that's when things are going to get pretty busy through the rest of the evening. So definitely a lot more storms out there than what we saw yesterday. So just make sure if you are heading out later on this afternoon, later on this evening, make sure you do have that rain jacket or that umbrella because you will need it. We are quite literally looking at those storms all along the I-4 corridor, and it's only going to pick up. You can already see those lightning strikes starting to pick up as those sea breezes kind of continue to collide as we head through the rest of the evening. So those rain chances going to be pretty active out there for sure. And again, if you missed our question of the day, what is your go-to coffee/tea order? And if you do have any photos, definitely send them to us, especially if you do see anything later on this afternoon. We'd love to see them. All right, tropics update. This is another half of this very busy forecast and a kind of a complex forecast that we kind of have going on. So let's break it down. Here's Tropical Storm Umberto. This is going to continue to strengthen. So right now at tropical storm strength, holding about 50 miles per hour as for the 11 a.m. update. It's going to continue to rapidly intensify to a Category 3 storm and then maybe brush along the east coast. But luckily, this one is expected to stay offshore. But that's not the only system that we're monitoring. We can see right here, taking a look at our tropical satellite, we are not only tracking Umberto, we're also tracking another system right around 900 miles away from each other. So these two systems are in pretty close proximity, and these two are going to be interacting with one another as we head through the next couple of days, which will definitely throw a little bit of a wrench in the forecast. We'll talk a little bit more about why coming up in a few minutes, but there's something called the Fujiwara effect that is really going to be at play over the next couple of days. So for a little bit more on that, I'm going to pass it off to Brooks and Jess to kind of give a little bit of the basics before we kind of get into the nitty gritty of the forecast and why this effect is going to be so important coming up in the next block. But for now, I'll pass it off to Jess and Brooks to kind of explain what the Fujiwara effect is. Take it away, guys.
So much for that quiet hurricane season. Now it's so busy, we've got two tropical systems that are really close together, and because of their extremely close and rare proximity to one another, there's a very interesting effect that is going to begin shortly as these two systems start to interact.
And it's very rare too, especially in the Atlantic. It happens more so in the Pacific, but it's called the Fujiwara effect.
Yeah, Fujiwara was an atmospheric scientist from Japan, and in the 1920s observed that typhoons in the Pacific, which are the same as hurricanes, will actually, when they're close together, start orbiting around an invisible common point. And in doing so, can have a very erratic and unpredictable track. And that's something we may face with these two systems.
And it just makes the forecast all the more complicated because there are a couple of different scenarios that could play out. They can kind of, orbit around each other for a little while until one becomes stronger than the other. And that's essentially what usually happens is one kind of is a little stronger and it will pull away. But regardless, it's fascinating to see just in the world of meteorology.
Yeah, and if it doesn't do a full orbit, it can do a partial orbit and essentially kind of pull a system in a direction that it normally wouldn't go based on steering currents. So to show you one of the computer models, how we've got the two low pressure centers adjacent to each other, notice the one on the left, how it kind of gets pulled offshore and then eventually a little bit absorbed, if you will. Now, it's not that two hurricanes combine to make one stronger hurricane. It's that the stronger hurricane will tend to produce an environment around itself that will dissipate, weaken, and kill the weaker one. And then once it's dead, once the circulation's dead, it'll pull in whatever remaining humidity is lingering from its original circulation.
Yeah, it honestly reminds me kind of a lot of like a lava lamp, how the globs, a larger glob will kind of pull away and then the smaller one kind of settles or morphs into another one. That's a lot of what meteorology as a whole kind of operates in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you look at black holes, they can merge into one bigger black hole. But with this situation, we've got two outcomes: absorption, as we just described, or the possibility of downright steering, as we observed earlier between two systems in the Southwest Atlantic. So the Fujiwara effect, first identified more than a century ago, about 105, 110 years ago, and now we may see it here in the Atlantic, and well, it's already impacting the forecast track, which is very uncertain, as hurricane tracks are by default, but now there's a whole new wrench in the game.
Yeah, in true 2025 Florida fashion, that is. So, and if it happens, we'll of course let you know and give you the latest details on it, but until then, we will send it back to you.
Good stuff, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. So I see a lot of people writing in from Daytona, seeing a couple people writing in from Long Island, actually, New Smyrna Beach, all asking about this weekend. And coming up in the next block, we'll talk a little bit more about the tropics because it's very tricky when we do take a look at that because of that Fujiwara effect. That is really going to play a role in how these systems are going to interact and how close things are going to be pushing to the Florida coast. To be totally honest, I think we are going to be feeling some effects as we see some pretty rough rip currents, especially through the back half of the weekend. Seeing a lot of folks writing in on Daytona Beach right now. We are probably going to be seeing some pretty rough rip currents, very gusty winds, maybe some of those outer bands from this system, but we're probably not going to be seeing any direct effects. So coming up in a couple minutes, we'll talk more about that. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Alrighty, folks, welcome back. I see a lot of folks in the comments asking what the weather is going to be like this weekend, and it's really going to play a role in what we see in the tropics. But if you haven't gotten your answer in for our question of the day in yet, definitely write it in. We'll take a look at them coming up in the next block. But let's get right into the tropics. Tropical storm Umberto came up at about 5 p.m. yesterday, and right now holding 50-mile-per-hour winds. This is what's going to continue to make its way off to the northwest and could have an influence on another system that's starting to brew up. So what we can see with this system right now is rapid intensification. Right now it's kind of in an area with warm water, but it's high wind shear, which that's in the area that it's in right now. So it's going to move out of that high wind shear area. And just a reminder, wind shear is wind moving in two different directions at different layers of the atmosphere. And when we see high wind shear, tropical systems can't form. When we have low wind shear, usually it's not enough. So it's kind of that Goldilocks effect, that it can't be too high, but it can't be too low. And we're going to be pretty much seeing the prime conditions for tropical development, taking a look as we head into the start of the weekend. So over the next couple of days, we're going to be seeing this rapid intensification, possibly looking at another major hurricane, taking a look at the start of next week. Good news is most of these models and where the cone is linking right now is quite literally a replay of Erin. So we saw this system build up on the side of Africa, continue to make its way across the Atlantic, and right now it is set to pass in between Bermuda as well as the Carolina coastline. And that's what models are showing right now. It's still a little bit early, and things are going to really start to get a little bit more confident as we head through the next couple of days. But good news right now, but still might pose threat to Bermuda. So heads up if you are planning on going on a cruise in the next couple of days, especially to Bermuda. It's going to be a little bit wavy, so definitely keep an eye out for that and keep an eye on your reservations as well. Not only are we tracking Umberto, though, we're also tracking this other wave. And again, these two waves are in very close proximity to each other. So Invest 94 bringing gusty winds to the Dominican Republic and Turks and Caicos right now. A tropical depression is expected as it makes its way north towards the Bahamas. And this could be a pretty close call for us here in Florida. Not going to be seeing most likely a direct landfall here, but definitely the indirect effects of very, very rough rip currents as well as some pretty gusty winds along the beaches. So as Jess and Brooks were saying just a couple of minutes ago, that Fujiwara effect starts to kind of take place when these systems are pretty close to each other, and they're still close right now. They're about 900 miles away from each other. Usually we start to see those effects kind of start to work on both of those storms as we take a look at about 850 miles away. And we can see with this Invest 94L, most likely this system is going to be kind of tweaked a little bit with its path as it feeds off of the energy from Umberto, and most likely impact areas across the Georgia coastline and the Carolina coastline. So something that we're going to be watching very closely this weekend, but really that's just to our north. So even though we have pretty much a low concern for threats with more the direct impacts of this storm, we're still going to be seeing threats, even though again, we're not maybe going to be seeing the direct impacts, we're still going to be seeing impacts. So folks who are looking for weekend plans, especially along the coastline, I saw some folks writing in from New Smyrna Beach. Scott, I see you in the comments on Facebook. Joy, I see you in Daytona Beach right now looking for your weekend forecast. Here's what we're looking at. So as the system kind of follows up the Florida coastline, this system could pass probably within 200 miles. So luckily, it is starting to get a little bit more of that breathing room, but it's still going to be cutting it close. So we could be looking at squall showers, so some pretty rough bands of rain, 25 to 35 mile per hour gusts, especially along the beaches, rip currents, and rough surf. So this is what we can be looking for, especially Sunday and Monday. Saturday, we're going to be seeing a lot of rain, so probably not the best weekend to get outside, but we are going to be most likely seeing these threats Sunday and Monday as of how the forecast is kind of setting up right now. So heads up, if you do have any beach plans, do not go in the water. It is going to be really windy, and we're already starting to see rip currents from what was Gabrielle really starting to stir up. So just make sure you are being extremely careful if you do have any beach plans this weekend. But here's going to be your threats, especially taking a look Sunday into Monday. And of course, we'll have everything watched over here. So if you do have any questions, definitely reach out to us. We would be happy to answer them. So again, if our threats are really going to be Sunday through Tuesday is when we should be starting to see those really rough rip currents finally start to lighten up. And for areas especially just off to our north, Carolinas, Virginia. It's probably going to be until about Wednesday where we could be seeing that. All right, let's take a look at the model. So this is the European model. This is the one that we start to use, especially when we really are seeing two systems kind of start to pick up. This one has been really accurate so far. And we'll take a look at our Fox model a little bit later on tonight when we see the most recents come in. But most likely we could be seeing Tropical Storm Imelda by the end of the weekend. And of course you can see we're also going to be tracking Umberto that's going to continue to pick up in strength. So as Imelda continues to kind of move northward, or 2B Imelda starts to move northward, this is when we could be seeing that little bit of a joint connection between these two storms. You can kind of see that little bit of a bridge right here, and that's that Fujiwara effect. When these systems get close enough, we could be seeing Umberto pretty much repel. These are kind of like magnets, so this Umberto storm could push Imelda, or what would be Imelda, further into the Carolina coastline, kind of shifting its path west as we take a look a little bit later on at the start of the work week. So this is Monday at 4 p.m. and we can kind of see that little bit of a shift change when we see the storm that's making possible landfall in the Carolinas as we take a look a little bit later on, because of this very strong storm Umberto kind of pushing it into the coast. So that's that Fujiwara effect that we were talking about, and you're probably going to hear that term quite a bit over the next couple of days. So that's what we're seeing with those two systems right here. Very, very windy weekend if you are planning along the coastline. But Hurricane Gabrielle is still kicking, and we saw this storm make its way off the coast of Africa, swing all the way pretty much close to the U.S., and then back over to Europe. So this is quite literally a tri-continental storm. So we're going to be seeing this storm possibly make the second landfall, taking a look over areas across Portugal and Spain as we take a look at the next couple of days, bringing in lots of wind, lots of rain over to Europe. So something pretty cool with that storm for sure. We're going to take a quick break in a couple seconds, but here's where we're at so far on the list. Most likely going to be having Imelda within the next couple of days. Jerry, Karen, Lorenzo coming up coming up probably most likely in October. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. We're going to take a quick break, but if you didn't get your question in for the day so far, definitely get that in. We'll take a look at the comments coming up after the break. Stick with us. All right, folks, welcome back. All right, so trying something new. We tried something new with the comments yesterday, and we're going to try something new today. So actually showing your comments here. Question of the day was, what is your go-to coffee and tea order? So let's actually take a look at that. Oops. Let's do here. There we go. All right, Christina Joy saying that hers is hot tea. We have Eli writing in saying that espresso is theirs. And we have a couple of comments, people writing in. We're also seeing a lot of folks writing in from all over the place. We have Scott writing in from New Smyrna. We have Joy writing in from Daytona. We have William writing in from Denellen. These folks are on Facebook. We'll start there and then we'll take a look over at YouTube. We see Christina writing in. And we also have Elaine Tovett writing in from Holbrook, Massachusetts. Checking over on YouTube right now, we have Mary writing in from Orlando, and Berlinda just saying hello. Lovely. Thanks, everyone, for joining in today. And you can see all your answers on the bottom part of the screen answering our question of the day. Let's see if we can get a couple more of those in there today. Ooh, Christina, I have yours right here. I'll put that up in 1 second. But that is one of my favorite orders as well. There we go, and you can see again all of your comments kind of rotating on the bottom. So we'll keep that up for a little while, but let's talk about your weekend because I see a lot of folks are writing in about that. So right now we are seeing a good amount of storms, and through the rest of the evening, those storms are going to be sticking with us. So it is definitely going to be a little bit more on the stormy side through the next couple of days. So definitely stick with us here because again, we are going to be seeing quite a bit of storms over the next couple of days, and those rain chances staying high through the weekend. Let's take a look at our current radar because we are seeing a good amount of storms starting to pick up, as well as those sea breezes really starting to kick into gear. Right now it looks like a special weather statement in effect for Flagler County. So let's stop this real quick. So for 3:30 p.m. Until 3:30 p.m., so a couple more minutes, we're starting to see a thunderstorm really pick up, but it should be moving off the coast as we head through the next couple of minutes. So through the rest of the afternoon, and I can already see this right here, a little bit of a meteorology lesson for everybody. We can see this is a sea breeze that's moving this way. We have a little bit of a sea breeze kind of making its way up towards Disney property, and then we kind of have a little bit of a boundary right here. So when these boundaries all collide, which is most likely going to be over Orlando, over Apopka, over Disney area, it will probably lead to a good amount of storms really starting to pick up. So heads up for that. Through the rest of the evening, it most likely will be on the stormy end. And no, of course, we'll have your forecast coming up at 5. But getting you set up and out the door for tomorrow, it will be humid. We're starting to see that moisture start to kick back in across the region. We can see more of those storms starting to pick up as we head through the weekend as well. And by the end of the morning, we're quite literally flirting with the upper 80s, which is where we've been kind of capped the past couple of days. And through the next couple of days as well, we're slowly going to start to see more of those storms pick up. So it's going to be a pretty rainy weekend overall, and that's not even taking a look at the tropical system that's going to be lingering just offshore. So we can see with our highs through the day tomorrow lingering throughout the low 90s, and as we do take a look at our Fox model, we're going to continue to see those storms pick up through the rest of the evening. You can see those storms kind of blossoming and then slowly starting to die down through the overnight tonight. Morning commute tomorrow should actually look pretty good, and then once we head into the back half of the day, it's kind of a rinse and repeat. We're going to see those clouds start to move in, storms start to pick up, sea breezes collide, scattered showers and thunderstorms pretty much across the area as we head through your Friday, and then things slowly going to start to cool off and die down probably at about midnight as we take a look a little bit later on in the day. That humidity is really going to be making things feel pretty toasty, especially on Friday. Slowly starting to see some drier air kick back in as we take a look Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That heat not going to be as oppressive, but it definitely will be on the toastier side out there for sure. Here are your rain chances for the next couple of days. It's going to be high through the weekend, so unfortunately, it's not going to be a total washout of a weekend, but most folks are going to be seeing that rain. Taking a look Saturday and Sunday, slowly starting to see things a little bit more scattered. So here's why we're slowly going to actually start to see our rain chances drop. So here's our GFS model. And one thing that I didn't mention in the last block is that we kind of have a cold front kind of laced over the southeast U.S. And what this is going to do is first push in a lot of moisture. So we're going to be seeing this kind of impact our rain over the next couple of days. And then we're going to kind of see this front stall. So continuing to kind of trap some moisture in across the region. But you'll notice this is that system that we're going to be watching as we take a look at the weekend. So over here, this is what could be possible Imelda. And the good news is that this frontal boundary is going to act as a little bit of a shield. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we're pretty confident that this is not going to be leading to direct impacts for our neck of the woods, taking a look at the next couple of days. But with that, we are still going to be watching the forecast extremely carefully. And with that, here's your 7-day forecast. We are calling for impact days Sunday and Monday, and this mainly concerns the East Coast. So for folks that were writing in on Facebook, William, Christina, Joy, for those folks who are on Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, it's going to be really windy, really gusty over the next couple of days, but specifically Sunday and Monday is when we're going to be seeing the impacts of that system kind of brushing up against Florida. So we can see right here, even though it's a 40 and 50% rain chance, it's going to be so windy, especially along the East Coast because of that system kind of brushing. This is when we could be seeing a little bit more of that influence kind of take hold as we take a look Sunday into Monday. So more of that possibility of rain, but luckily we slowly start to dry out as we see some drier air kick back into the region, taking a look Tuesday and Wednesday. But for now, all focus right now is on the tropics. And of course, we'll be here all weekend. TJ's got you in the morning. I got you in the evening. And if things do start to pick up a little bit, we absolutely will let you know about everything. Keep updated on not only my Facebook page, Meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, but also the rest of the Fox 35 Storm team. We will be updating on the daily to make sure you are staying safe. But even though this is not going to be most likely bringing in direct impacts, it is still a great reminder that hurricane season is alive and well, and it's still going to be on the active side, especially as we head into October. So definitely make sure you are prepared for the rest of hurricane season. It's not over yet. It's almost there, but we still got ways to go. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. We will be back here same time, same place tomorrow. Don't miss it. Have a great one.